Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Welcome to Talk Gertie to Me, the Charm Patterns podcast, where we chat vintage glamour, sewing, creative rabbit holes, and fashion history, all through a campy, queer, and feminist pop culture lens. So throw on your favorite silk robe, grab a mocktail, and let's get started. Hi, everyone. I'm Gretchen, also known as Gertie.
And I'm Andrea.
And we're starting to wrap up season 1.
Hooray!
I know. It's been so fun.
It really has been fun. Yeah. It's just fun to get to sit and talk about all the charm things. And today is, for me, one of the most exciting, which is that people submitted questions to us about what charm does.
Yeah, so we're calling this Mailbag.
We
didn't workshop that
no, we didn't
at all.
No, I'm glad we're announcing it here. Yeah.
It's not a mailbag. It's like a cute little pink mailbox outside the Charm studio. So we put out a call for questions on Patreon, and we got a lot, like 60 questions.
So we got so many questions that we can't answer them all today, but we're going to do our best to answer some of them.
And I feel like this is something that we can do again in the future. Like maybe this will happen every season.
I think a fun thing to know from this episode would be if people hear anything that they want us to do a deeper dive on, that in season 2 we could talk more about.
Yeah. Great. Sounds like a great time. So the conversation this morning where this was like so typical of us, where you were like, well, you got to look through all the questions. They're all in the Google Doc. And I was like, got it. I'm going to find the Google Doc. And I was just like, I have no clue where this Google Doc is. And I'm like, where exactly would one find this Google Doc? And you're like, I Slacked it to you. And I go to my Slack and there's just like a Google Drive link.
We were in the room together and I said, I'm slacking you the Google Doc with the question. I don't have time to be writing Google Doc with questions for Mailbag.
Well, it's our first fight on air.
And then we talked through some of the questions. Actually, it was really fun while I was sewing. So it was perfect. It was real like sewing chit chat.
It was, yeah. So you also helpfully divided them into topics.
Well, I don't want to take credit here.
Oh, did Angie? Okay.
Angie did all this for us, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, we really need to, like, Angie needs like a special moment right now because she's really been the behind the scenes, one of the behind the scenes forces behind the podcast this season. So thank you, Angie, for all your hard work. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Steven. Theo.
Really much appreciated. Yeah,
really.
So we've had a great team of people who have been working on this and supporting us to do this. Finally, talk about projects you wanted to do for a really long time.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of the things that you've been talking about for years, wanting to do.
Like when you do something for 17 years, which is where I am, like since I started my blog, like I have things that I've wanted to do since day one of my blog that I still haven't done. So there's a lot to, which is exciting to me. Like you can be 17 years in and like still have so many ideas and things yet to come. And so the podcast was one of those things. And here we are.
So this is a perfect culmination of season 1. Cool. Okay, so here is our first question. So does monetizing sewing sap the joy?
In some respects. I don't know. This is like a tough one to answer for me because in some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. Some ways it adds more joy than ever, you know?
Yeah.
It's such a mixed bag. Mm-hmm. I will say anytime you monetize a hobby, it's going to become a mixed bag for sure.
Yeah. Well, you have deadlines.
Yeah, like it becomes a very deadline-oriented thing. There's no longer the option of like, oh, I'm not feeling it tonight.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you better feel it. And if you don't, you have to get through it, you know? But the thing is, I still enjoy sewing like as much or maybe more than I ever have.
You sew for every photo shoot.
Yes.
You make a sample or a couple samples. You know, like what? It's not like you're not sewing.
Right.
Now, but I do think it's that like every time you're sewing and we're having just a day where you're like, no business owner jobs, sewing.
Just sewing.
You are constantly looking up and being like, this is so fun. I love sewing.
I'm just hanging out with my friends. They're sewing. Like, what could be better?
Yeah, but you have to like consciously decide to not do the 900 other hats, like the other jobs that are part of your job.
And then there's always an aspect of like, what am I dropping the ball on today? So the big thing for me lately that I'm feeling is that, and this has been just a frustration that has been growing and I've been sort of like unable to name until this question came along today. Okay, so you're sewing, but even if I'm sewing for a photo shoot, there's a feeling that I shouldn't just be sewing. I should also be making a reel out of it. I should be taking selfies. I should be whatever it is. Not only am I monetizing it to make a pattern from it that we're going to sell, but I should also be monetizing it in additional ways, because if you don't do that, then you are essentially like leaving money on the table or not optimizing your time.
Oh boy.
Like this drive for everything to be as optimized as possible and time efficient as possible takes away the joy for me.
Yeah.
And one like spiral for me lately is I feel like everyone's doing like a much better job than me, like everyone in the world.
8 billion people.
And every single one of them are making better sewing reels than me. I just feel like I see other people, and well, you know, everyone has their strengths, I guess is one thing to look at. You know, we definitely have our strengths. I feel like one area where I can improve is I want to be doing more actual sewing reels on social media. So I've been trying to incorporate that lately. And it's just so frustrating because you're not just sewing, you're also operating a camera. And it's like either the camera malfunctions or your machine jams. I feel like I'm missing the satisfaction that I used to feel when I was able to just see through a task of sewing where your only job is to make it look as good as possible. And now I have like 10 other jobs at the same time.
Yeah.
And like today, when we were having our couch talk, I was like, it's creative flow that I'm missing. And that's what everyone talks about. Like, this idea of creative flow is what makes something feel satisfying or like on a soul level, right?
Yeah.
What makes something feel really good. Can I read to you this quote that I found? Creative flow, also known as the zone or flow state, is a mental state where a person is fully immersed and intensely focused on a task, experiencing a feeling of energized focus, involvement, and enjoyment. It's a state where time seems to pass quickly and self-consciousness fades away, allowing for effortless and highly productive work. Achieving creative flow can be beneficial for both work and personal well-being, leading to deeper satisfaction and skill development. And I feel like that word like satisfaction is so important in this discussion because like sewing is for me inherently satisfying.
Yeah.
But if the whole time I'm thinking about like, oh, are the GoPro batteries overheating? Is this reel going to be as good as someone else's?
Yeah.
Am I doing enough with my time? Is my head showing in the camera? You know what I mean? There's like zero possibility of reaching flow, which I think is what makes sewing feel good. And I told you today when we were talking about this, I was like, I feel like I just need to go to a cabin for a week and just sew. And then the next thing I said was, I could make so many reels. Like my brain won't even do it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I do feel like I need. Like I need a reset where I'm not sewing for a camera, for content. I truly just want to sit and like have my hands do the motions and feel what that feels like.
It's tricky to not be productive.
I know.
That's the real problem. I've never been a hobby sewist.
This is where you're different.
This is where I'm very different. I don't have joy in the same way. I love to just like get in the zone to get my creative flow, but I'm always under a deadline. When I go home and I sit and it's just me and a podcast, I find that really, really refreshing. Just the physical act of making is what I love, but I've never sewn something that isn't on a deadline.
I feel like cooking is more your equivalent.
That's true.
Like, what if you monetized cooking?
Absolutely not.
What if there was a GoPro between your face and a mixing bowl while you were cooking? Would that make it more enjoyable for you? Keep saying the GoPro because that's what we use on the sewing machine.
Yeah. So anyway, so when we sew at the sewing machine and when we do all the overhead work for the Patreon videos and YouTube videos that we have online, the GoPro is where your eyeballs would be. And so everything you do has to be like a slightly uncomfortable stance. It's the opposite of flow. And also, if you're someone who sews pretty fast and you're trying to make sewing content, like, read or know, it takes so much more time. And that's hard if you're someone who wants to just get into it and you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to make a beautiful bodice. But that bodice is now going to take you double the time. The other thing is that I think people say, like, with the idea of monetizing sewing is like, just take a couple quick shots while you're working. Like, it can't be that hard. It is all hard.
Yeah, this is a conversation we have behind the scenes a lot, is like how to essentially like double our productivity. Like, well, you're already making the samples anyway. Why don't you take video of it while you're doing it? It's like, no, that makes it extra hard.
Yeah.
It doubles the difficulty.
I feel like that's when I always want to reply, well, then I'm going to do both poorly.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to say about sewing on camera is I sew so much worse on camera than I do not on camera. Do you feel that way?
It is high stakes.
I feel like anything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong if I'm filming it.
100%.
And then I get into this place where I'm like, I actually don't think I'm good at sewing anymore. Like, I think I told you that the other day. I was like, I think I've gotten markedly worse at sewing.
Yeah.
And I think part of my problem is that I don't get to reach that flow state ever.
The other thing is that I still love what we do every day.
I mean, monetizing is such a dirty word, I feel like. But the flip side of making this essentially my life's work is more how I think of it. I have felt like that for a long time. It's like what I want to do with my life, right?
Yeah.
And that's...
You're doing great.
That's big. But the thing is, like, if you balance out the joy that has brought to my life, like being able to do this for a living, being able to create, like, working with the most beautiful source material to help people create their own visions of beauty. Like, what could be a better job than that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really is a privilege. I want to end on that note.
We get to make beautiful things with our hands.
Yeah, and hopefully inspire other people to make whatever it is that they think is beautiful to add beauty to their lives.
Let's move on because we've got a lot of questions. Yeah. Can you tell us more about the actual business side of things? I think folks glamorize the so everyday aspect of the job, but don't have a sense of the cost, revenue sources, deadlines, what can go wrong, product development, etc.
I do feel like none of our consumers or our customers or community, like, they're never going to know the ins and outs of how we make this work, which I think is a good thing. You know, I don't think I would need to know, like, a company that I was a fan of or engaged with. I don't need to know how everything works. But I will say, I do think that can lead to people sort of like filling in the blanks on what they think the company has the potential to make or achieve. And we do get to, well, I don't get to sew every day. You get to sew every day.
I sew almost every day.
Yeah, you do. So yeah, I think people definitely can glamorize that aspect of it. Like, you get to essentially do your hobby every day, but unfortunately there's like so much more to it than that, which is what the question is asking. I always talk about like the disability and paid family leave insurance, which I'm like, what is that? I still don't know what it is.
All the different insurances.
I know I can get in a lot of trouble if I don't have it.
Yeah, and we want to have it. It's a great thing, but it's just like,
oh yeah, no, I want to have it. I just still don't understand what it is.
Making sure that like the computer program subscriptions are up to date.
Yeah.
Just the things like that.
And I guess also just how much money everything takes. I've seen some comments where people will say, well, it can't be more than this, or this amount of dollars to produce a photo shoot. It's like, and it'll be so wildly off, you know? And it's like, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, we have a team of professionals.
But even just before the photo shoot happens, how much does it cost to create one muslin? And how many muslins do we create for each pattern? Because we're testing within each size range several times and within each cup size. We're talking at least $150 per muslin.
We have a team of sample makers who we pay living wages, right? That we just know going into it that it's going to cost, like for something of moderate complexity, $150 to have a full test done. There's
no guarantee that is going to... We've had muslins where the stretch has been cut in the wrong direction. So that's $150 we just burned through. You know what I mean? That's just part of the cost of doing business.
I cut a lining in the wrong fabric for a test this morning.
Things like that, it's like, you could say, well, whatever, it's just a test. But we can't, because we need to know exactly the stretch percentages of the fabric and how it's going to behave. Otherwise, the pattern is not going to be right for everyone to use. So stuff like this, the costs really add up.
And we work hard to put the time and effort into making sure the pattern is correct. And it just does cost a fair amount of money and a fair amount of time, because there's also like, how long does it take for things to go to a sample maker to be sewn, to come back, or something to be sewn in-house.
And I think, we've really started looking more at breaking down those hours. So if you spend 20 hours on this pattern, how much did that pattern cost to produce? And if this pattern cost that much, then how long does it take us to break even on a pattern? And having these discussions are not easy for me, because I feel like it's fun to go on vibes only when it comes to business. And Angie has been really instrumental. She's many things, but she's also our business manager, and she's very good at creating graphs and, making them pretty colors so that I can stand to look at them. And one fun fact that she told me, which I don't think I ever would have guessed, is that it takes us 2 years to break even on a charm pattern.
Wow.
So just to make back the money that we spent creating it.
Yeah.
And then we can start turning a profit.
That sounds right.
Yeah. I mean,
so much goes into it. I mean, there's the actual pattern making, and there's grading, and there's the sketching, and there's fitting and sample sewing and test sewing and illustrations and instructions. And there's so many parts, like 187 steps that we have to achieve. Each project has this list of things that have to be done. And all of those are the business of it. Because when you get down to it, this is like going back to monetizing, to being a business of sewing means that, there's a lot that has to happen. And all of those things cost money.
And I think when I started the business, my vision, how has it shaped up versus what I expected? When I started the business, I thought that we could just make charm patterns and we could make money and pay people.
Yeah.
But that's not true. The only reason that we are able to thrive in the way that we do is because of Patreon.
Yeah, we're so lucky to have such a supportive community that wants to support the work. I think that's one of the things about Patreon. It's bigger than just joining a subscription, right? You're supporting the work.
It's bigger than a product.
It's bigger than a product. Yeah. That so that we can keep turning out 1 to 2 patterns a month.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I started Charm Patterns in 2017, and then I launched the Patreon in 2020. And I think I could not have envisioned how Patreon would be the central focus of our everyday.
Yeah. I mean, my job is, so much of it is Patreon and the Patreon patterns.
Yeah, and I think, the difficult thing about that is that Patreon sometimes feels like, God, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Patreon can feel like a deadline grind.
Yeah.
Because we put out so much content there every month. But it's so important because otherwise we would not be here.
Yeah.
But then there's the problem that I have this vision. This goes back to the monetizing question a little bit. Like, charm patterns are like inherently more complex, take a lot longer to develop.
Yeah.
And I feel like on a soul level, like that's what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
I want to be doing those. And that's not to say that I don't want to be doing Patreon, because I like the sort of instant gratification of Patreon too. Like, I love like being able to design something and, it's in the world a few months later, like that's satisfying in its own way too. But I feel like Patreon tends to take priority, and I would like Charm and Patreon to be a little more symbiotic.
Yeah.
And balanced. And that's the challenge.
Yeah, I think we're always working towards that.
Yeah.
Towards more. That's the root of it, is we're always working towards more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing community and we work really hard. You know, we've had one single month where we didn't meet our deadline.
Yeah, that was
because
rough.
we just had some like team crises and
Yeah.
sometimes things happen and
Yeah.
everyone was incredibly supportive and understanding, but that we work really, really hard, guys, to make sure that we don't have an ish schedule.
Well, as you know, I've always been a little creative with, time management. And so when I started the Patreon, I always knew like, if I'm going to do this, it has to be like clockwork. You know what I mean? I cannot say, oh yeah, I'll probably get you a pattern every month, or you'll get a pattern at some point during the month. No, you're getting that pattern on the 1st of the month and the 15th of the month, because otherwise I don't think I can make it work with the way my brain works.
I love that the guardrails had to go in for you.
It's for me.
Well, creative people, you
Yeah.
work on a different timeline, a different kind of schedule. So yeah, but
That's why we do it that way, because I see other Patreon creators who have schedules that may be more forgiving, but that means that they're way more likely to miss deadlines.
yeah.
You can't punish yourself if you do.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, is that we all feel punished every month.
I mean, there are months that are more stressful where we'll hit a snag or something. This, like, what can go wrong? Like, if the pattern isn't right, it can mean we're working on a weekend to make sure we meet a deadline.
We have a lot of Monday photo shoots where we're sewing through the weekend.
A lot of Monday photo shoots. And so that's like being shot out of a cannon. I very often will touch base on Sunday and either meet at the studio or also at home. And we're just cranking it out because the curtain goes up. It has to happen.
Yeah. We work really hard and then we take a few days off maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the next.
Okay. When are all of your patterns going to have the full size range? Why is it taking so long? Still waiting on some of the earlier charm ones in large sizes. Is there any chance of the L'Amour dress being put out in larger pattern size?
I wish I could put them all out for you right now. I think it's a much longer process than people realize. And I think it costs a lot more money than people realize to create an entire second range in a pattern line. Like when we doubled the size range, we also doubled our costs and hours needed.
Timelines.
But we did not double our staff or our budget.
That was there were growing pains during that period.
And that was another question, what was one of the hardest transitional moments for you? And I think probably adding that second size range without a plan on how we were going to make the numbers work, but knowing that we had to do it because we wanted to serve that market.
Yeah.
And I think, one misconception may be that like we're able to press a button and then it gets graded into the new range by a computer program. And unfortunately, I wish it worked that way, but that is not how it works.
Yeah, and like we have 2 different blocks and they have slightly different
Proportions.
Proportions, properties. And so it's not just like, oh, we want to make the night and day and we just like, poof, it's done. It's a full set of testing. We test it against 2 through 20 to make sure stylistically everything is still meeting the same standards, right? So the proportions may be different on the second block, the curvy block, but we want it to be representative of what we're seeing in the 2 through 20. It does take a lot of testing and a lot of fine tuning to really get it right. It can take over a year.
Exactly. Night and Day took us over a year to develop, and that is because we are starting from scratch with a new pattern.
And that one in particular, the charm patterns that have a lot of different options to them, I'm not just like, oh, well, I'll just test one sleeve and it will be fine. We make like little combos.
Yeah.
On this one, we're testing all of these. And on this one, we're testing all of these. And here we're testing. So we have these kind of like all the different parts of the garments. We tested all of them to make sure that they work and not just work in one size, but work across the range. And then these things are also styled separately. Unfortunately,
the styling, and like they don't know what that is. We have one person, thank you, Tina, who like, how when you get your sewing pattern and it's nested, every single size line is a different pattern, like little dots or dashes. Someone does that by hand.
Yeah. Yes.
There's not a button that does that.
Yeah.
That has to be done on layers.
Yeah.
In a graphic design program.
The pattern I work on in the testing process is the same pattern but looks incredibly different.
Yeah.
From what our patrons get.
So to turn it into a product that is usable. And if there are any errors in that process, that's bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to take a long time with it. I think also, unfortunately, I'm just going to say it, we have not gotten a lot of financial support in.
Yeah, this is a labor of love. This is not, it's about us doing, in my mind, right? We are doing this at the speed we really can in order to not sacrifice what we also are creating now in the full range to go back.
Well, the thing is, we're spending all the time and money, that 2 years, right, yes, that it takes us to earn back.
Yeah.
What we spent making a charm pattern. We do that again for the plus size range.
Yeah.
But what we have found is that the sales numbers are, like, to put it kindly, abysmal.
Yeah, we don't break even.
We don't sell many plus size patterns.
Yeah.
And we do get a lot of people asking for the file for free because, yes, they bought it 8 years ago or whatever it is, and now they want the expanded range. So it is frustrating that we spend so much time and money. There's a lot of pressure, as we can tell from this question. There's a lot of pressure to make it happen on a certain timeline, and then we release it, and the only feedback we get is people writing in for their free file. Yeah. So we're losing a ton of money doing these expansions. And I think the next question is, that I've heard is that, well, maybe there's not enough brand awareness that you're a plus size, you have such a good inclusive range. And that's a great point too.
Yeah.
I think what I would say to that is that we don't have any advertising budget at the moment. We don't market the 2 through 20 range. We don't market the 18 through 34 range.
It's organic.
There's no money in that bucket right now, but that's something that we're looking towards, and that's how I want to see us expand. We need to increase awareness, but that's another thing that takes big wads of cash. And I think a misconception about this business is that there are millions and millions of customers out there for us to serve. And if we just, if we're charging $20 a pattern or whatever, whatever the pattern cost
the calculator is out.
Yeah, everyone's doing their mental well, then they make this much. And it's like, well, I think people are kind of overestimating the demand for what is a very niche product.
Yeah.
And one thing that I read when we were developing our plus size line is I read a book about expanding your range, and you're leaving, if you don't serve the plus size market, then you're turning your back on literally millions of customers. And I was like, we don't have millions of customers. We have thousands of customers. We're not in the millions.
Yeah.
So I think it's a sort of we all want to believe that our segment of the market is important, and that if companies don't serve us, then they're leaving money on the table. Yeah. Unfortunately, when you crunch those numbers, that may not be what plays out. But as a company, we have to decide what's important to us. Mm-hmm. And values-wise, it is important to us to serve this market.
Yeah, super important.
Dollars-wise, we don't always have those dollars. So I would say we're doing our best. And it's very important that we release every new pattern in the full size range. So that's always going to be the first thing we have to focus on. And then we continue to be committed to these expansions. So to answer the question about L'Amour, we are working on L'Amour right now. Good news. Working on L'Amour. We're working on the Lucille trousers, and we're working on the Loretta shorts.
Yeah, those are 3 biggies, and we're working. I never want to give a deadline.
You're not allowed to. Angie told you. She told both of us. Say when.
We're working on all 3 of those right now, in between all of our upcoming charm patterns, in between all of our Patreon patterns.
And also a book and a
podcast and a magazine that comes out quarterly.
Magazine and videos and reels, and we're doing it all.
We're doing it all. I'm going back and putting the expansions in, and I think that hopefully, we got this question a couple of times in the overall list, and I think hopefully in knowing that we're working on Lucille, L'Amour, Loretta, you can see that we are working to get these to everyone. Work through the biggies.
Yeah.
Little at a time. So now we're going to talk a little bit of charm and Patreon together. I really do not know how you prioritize all your inspiration. It looks to me like this is the most difficult part, having all your skills and knowledge. How do you decide what is going next to become a Patreon or charm pattern?
I like this question because normally people ask, how do you stay inspired? How do you possibly come up with more ideas? And I'm like, I haven't even gotten started. Like, there is so much more out there. With the wealth of vintage inspiration there is out there, movies, fashion, like it's just, we could do this for like a dozen lifetimes. There's no chance of running out of inspiration. But I think prioritizing inspiration is where I struggle, because when I get excited about something, I want to do it right away.
Yeah, you get a real bee in your bonnet.
I get a bee in my bonnet, and I want to do it this year, this calendar year. Now, the reality is, like, we've been working together long enough that we have things that I wanted to do now 6 years ago, and we're doing them now this year.
Yeah.
And I really had to learn delayed gratification in that because the October pattern is, I mean, I've wanted to do this for 20 years, probably, this pattern. So sometimes you just have to wait.
Yeah.
It's still, what I've learned though, is it's still going to be there next year. I'm not going to forget.
You're not going to forget about the green velvet dress from White Christmas.
That was a real bee in my bonnet for a while.
Yeah.
So there's that green velvet dress with it's like a deep V neck, crossover neckline with those little spaghetti straps that cross over at the neckline. Rosemary Clooney wears it, of course, in White Christmas, and has a full circle skirt. And I have just loved that dress for so long. I think I've begged you every year, is this the year that we can do it? And then was it last year that we did it, or the year before?
I think it was last year.
I don't know either.
It was a recent year. How's that?
I want to say last year, but I think it might have been 2 years ago.
I don't actually know. You know, the timelines get fuzzy for me. It's just
you and me both.
It's just one bucket, and everything happened last month,
last year,
or 5 years ago.
Well, we did it.
We did it. Yeah,
I wanted to do it a long time, and then we finally did it.
Yeah.
And you know, I think what I've learned is that sometimes I may have to wait to do the things that I'm really excited about, but all that means is that we're going to be better at it when we get to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if we had done the white velvet or the green velvet White Christmas dress a few years earlier, we wouldn't have had the Peggy bodice that we worked off of yet. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't have had our working relationship where we know how to do a hack together and make it look really good.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think about things like the Miss Yvonne dress. As I've probably mentioned on this podcast already, as a kid, one of my big influences was Pee-wee's Playhouse, and there was a character named Miss Yvonne, and she had a big bouffant hairdo, and she wore these big 50s dresses.
Yeah.
And I have wanted to do a Miss Yvonne look for many years now. And there's a particular one. I sketched it last year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago. We put it in maybe in the magazine or on the blog or something. Yeah. But it's that sort of like coral colored dress with the polka dot ruffle at the bottom. Yeah. And I wanted to do it forever. And I said, can we do it this year? And you and Angie said, no, we can't do it this year.
I think that you, in part of your learning delayed gratification is also you're very good at listening to the team now. When I'm like, I know you want it and one day you will get it, but it is not happening. It's not this year. And I have actually learned to just say no sometimes.
Yeah.
She's better at saying no than I am, because I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. Okay. But this is how much that Gretchen wants to do that Miss Yvonne dress. I think we have at least 2 different fabrics.
It's locked and loaded, Andrea.
Already. And they're we keep them, we have these bins where we have our fabric stash, but then we have these bins where it's the current projects. And the Miss Yvonne fabric lives in those bins.
And I just walk by it wistfully.
Yeah. And we acknowledge it. One day we will get there. But this year, you're getting the October 1st pattern instead.
But it's happening next year. I've already scheduled Ray for a couple's costume for next year, because he has a very Pee Wee Herman look, my partner Ray. I mean, not really. But
no. Yeah.
He could easily be Pee Wee. I could easily be Miss Yvonne in this scenario. And it's the perfect couple's costume for us. Like there are a few, like we fit into a few
so
vibes.
cute.
Like I'm the Miss Piggy and he's the Kermit.
I think also, deciding what's going to be for Patreon or Charm, like we do try to allow not just for your delayed gratification, but my job is to do the things that you think up and think are fun. And then it's fun for all of us. So
We're all just trying to have fun.
like you have, a kind of like pop culture Rolodex that's mixed with vintage, and you can think how to charmify everything. And this is how we have a slutty Italian summer and a White Lotus season, because you just got like what a bee in your bonnet about White Lotus. And we talked about this on a whole podcast episode. But another one is the Grace bodice.
That was the year that Wednesday, the TV show, came out, and she wore that ruffle dress to the dance.
Yeah.
And that dance went viral, and like everyone was obsessed with it. And I loved that dress.
We were like, how hard could that just be? Oh, right, it's an Alaya.
Oh, it's really hard. But looking at it, the vintage Rolodex, I'm like, it kind of looks like the bodice of the dress that Grace Kelly wears in High Society. Or you know what I mean? Like you take those, or it looks like an advanced pattern from 1952 that I saw once. So like, how can we take this pop culture moment and also make it a vintage charm moment so that we get to do those things that feel like fun in a pop culture way as well as fun in a vintage way.
Anyway, okay, so how do you plan a Patreon year? Do you have a list of pattern ideas and then find a theme that matches with them? Or do you start by choosing a theme and brainstorm garment ideas that could fit with this theme?
Well, we're deep in this process now because we're planning next year. And for me, it has to be the idea for the theme first. But I also have to do sort of a mental check, like, do I have at least 3 patterns that would fit into this idea? If I don't have that, then it's not fully cooked yet, you know? And I don't know if it could be an entire, because there are tons of great ideas out there for themes, but can they sustain an entire 12 months of content?
Is it something we're still going to be want to be doing in November?
Yeah.
This year really feels like that to me.
I mean, I could keep going for another year on this theme.
It's been really, really exciting, and it feels like really cohesive. So that's been really nice. But this is like the business part of it, which is that it's not like you throw open a door and be like, I've got it. It's like sometimes we talk a little and we'll have a meeting about it. We'll talk with our art director, and you'll kind of propose ideas, and you make these very cute little PowerPoints at this point where it's like, this line is maybe this one, and I think this. It's a puzzle to figure out. It's really fun. I mean, it is something that is really refreshing when we turn over and have something that's different.
You don't need to have a theme on Patreon every year. It was kind of like, I did 1 year on Patreon, and then the second year I was like, oh, wouldn't it be fun? This is where we get into things.
Let me set just a really easy precedent for us to reach annually.
Wouldn't it be fun if every year we had a new theme and the patterns kind of fit within that theme loosely sometimes, more cohesively other times? But I think that's one way of keeping things interesting for me is the theming. And like the second year it was Camp Gertie, which like that was just like a world I wanted to move into, you know? Yes. I was like, well, that's it. I'm going to Camp Gertie for the year. You know what I mean? And that felt really good. Yeah. I mean, I think sort of keeping things fresh for us, you know, really novel each year. You know, Patreon's like a new world to move into each year is really a fun thing for us.
And of course, you know, it's January 1st, but for us, it's like just the backtracking of like, okay, now it has to be determined now. And like, I already have the photo shoot scheduled. The team is booked. Like, we're really ramping up for 2026. And I think it's going to be an amazing year.
You guys just gave me the deadline of, oh, you need to design that first pattern. And the first photo shoot is always the biggest for the year.
It is, yeah.
I didn't really think through that when I came up with the theme. Like, I didn't think what would be the big showstopper, you know? And so, like, now all I got to do when I go away on vacation next week is come up with a big showstopper.
Like, feeling like if I don't come back with an idea that's going to
take my socks off, then what was the point of going on vacation?
Well, let's talk a little bit more about designing.
Okay.
I have some questions about designing.
Okie dokie.
So this is like design and inspiration. What's a holy grail pattern that you would love either for yourself or to design for others?
Well, there's always a bee in my bonnet.
There is.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's one holy grail, but I would say that lately the bee in my bonnet has been, and I think it's sort of related to what we talked to at the beginning of, feelings of wanting to get back into a creative flow. And part of that for me is just, I want to hole away into a cabin that is also like a couture workroom. And I want to stay there for 6 months. And then at the end of 6 months, I want to come out and show the world what I've created. And it's the most beautiful. And just like, I want that experience of just like hiding away and then coming out and people are like, oh my God, she did it. And for me, what I would work on if I had the opportunity to do that would be definitely like a Christian Dior.
Yeah.
There's one Christian Dior that and when I showed it to you, when we were talking about this question, you're like, I want to do that too. So I feel like that's probably in our future. But yeah. Sophia Loren wore this dress at one point. It has like a big kind of like portrait, dramatic collar, and then it buttons. It kind of wraps and buttons, and you open it. You can see interior pictures of it where there's like a net corselet, like a cotton bobinette corselet. This is what I want to do. That just gets me going. I want to make a bobinette corselet to go inside this Dior replica, and it hooks up the front, and it's got this whole inner structure. Like, I spent a lot of time looking at photos of the interior of vintage gowns and like those net corsets that were built inside them. That's kind of what I want to do. But this dress, what's her face from Bridgerton? Nicole Coughlan or whatever her name is. Remember, she wore a version of it. But this is one of those dresses that kind of keeps coming back. It's like the bar suit in a way. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's one. And then the other one would be a Charles James, like the Clover gown.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So sculptural.
Yeah, I want to hole away for 6 months and like figure out how to make that pattern.
That sounds totally doable.
Totally doable. Yeah. So yeah, that was like a ivory satin gown. If you don't know Charles James, you should really look him up, but like a mid-century couturier. And like these gowns were like, I mean, he must have been just fucking crazy, right? Is that what we've decided?
Just focused.
Very focused. Like, these gowns were not to be worn. They're sculptures.
Yes.
Like there's one diagram that shows you the interior of the Clover gown, like if you cut it in half. And it's just like, well, here's where like the paper mache goes, and here's where the chicken wire goes under the bustle. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, they're so incredibly, and then the material on top, like that ivory silk satin plus the black velvet piecing on the skirt. When I worked in that bridal restoration place, I used to do the intake on bridal gowns after they'd been worn, and they needed to be, like, you can't believe what people would do to their dresses in one day. But yeah, someone sent in their wedding gown, and it was a custom-made replica of that gown.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I was like, what a day to work in this crappy business.
It wasn't the right fit for you, it's true.
Yeah, this is like 10 years ago, but I took a lot of pictures of it. I just found those pictures in my camera roll the other day.
I think also the other thing about the things that are holy grail patterns that you'd love to work on is like very often those start as hacks. Where I'm like, okay, I'll do it, but we're just making one. And then we make it and we're like, oh, that's got to be a pattern.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
Fairly often.
So you excited to make a Charles James?
Yes. Like, that's the Betty dress.
Yeah. I was like, well, just do one.
Yeah, it's just me. I'm just going to hand draft it. It's going to be so great. I'm going to wear it to Disneyland. And then we'll turn it into a charm pattern over the next year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. And then inspiration. Is there a book or guide that is your go-to when researching vintage couture interiors?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just kind of said this, but like Pinterest, I feel like Pinterest algorithm has like got my number these days, because every time I go to the homepage, they're like, oh, do you want to see inside a Dior? Do you want to see inside a Balenciaga? So just, and I actually do have a Pinterest board that is just the interiors of vintage dresses. Yes. Well, once they know what you want, they're there to give it to you.
Yeah.
So much so that I like sometimes I'll be like, well, let me work on that Pinterest thing. I'll open Pinterest. And then I like come up for air 2 hours later.
Black out. Do you remember, well, you did some costume design in college, right?
Yep.
And this is right before Google was really becoming a thing and you could Google things. Do you remember what it was like to do costume research? I mean, I spent in libraries.
You go to the library.
Photocopying pictures, cropping them by hand with a ruler, meticulously taping them into layouts on pieces of paper. Just the hours of my life in college.
Oh, God. The photocopying.
And like, it's like never clear.
No.
Everything was black and white because I was in college and certainly couldn't afford color. And I was explaining this to Theo, who was also a costume designer. It was as if I was explaining, like, and then I etch a picture into a tablet, and then I carry the tablets across the desert. Like, it just could not.
You know, I used to work in the library in college. I spent a lot of time. Yeah, I worked in the Avery Fisher Media Center at NYU.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if you had this at your library, but there's like so it's a media center, and there are all these booths where you can watch films, like old films and stuff. But there's got to be a person, some schmuck, that's me, behind the counter who's controlling. You don't just get to take the VHS. I have to put it in to a VHS machine and then be like, go to booth 19. And then people will come up and be like, can you rewind that a little bit for me?
How did anything get done?
And then at the end, I'd have to rewind all the tapes. Like, rewinding tapes was my job. This is how I really saw a lot of film.
Yeah.
Like film noir. I saw it like...
My hand rewinding a scene for someone.
They're like, I need to see that again.
Can I only see the last 10 minutes?
And I'd look at them very pointedly and like press the button.
My ancient technology story is that in college, I was a teaching assistant for a professor, and he mostly taught with slides. And I would have to go, this also made Theo like almost fall over. I would have to go to the library, the slide library, and I would have to manually look up each slide, take them out, put them in a slide carousel in a certain order so that we could click through while the professor was talking.
You know, on one hand, it does sound like we're from ancient days. On the other hand, I feel like maybe our brains worked better at that point because there wasn't so much like, now look at this, now look at this. Oh, you're coming to look at Dior research? Well, don't you want to see the ceramic parrot? Like, it's like, yeah, actually, I do want to see that ceramic parrot. Show me all the ceramic parrots you've had. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I do have to tell you that Andrea and I loved answering your questions so much, and there were so many good ones that we ended up breaking this episode into 2 parts. So this part was a little more business, charm focused, and then the next part is where we're going to get into the more juicy personal questions that you ask. So stay tuned and look out for part 2 soon. Well, hello again, and thank you so much for joining me. That's it for this installment of Talk Gertie to Me. If I had to guess, I'd probably say this episode included a lot of fashion and pop culture references, some of which are best enjoyed in a more visual medium. So be sure to check the show notes for images and links.